This whole video is going to be a long one, so strap in, because it has to pertain to Storm's ancestry and her overall potential as a character. This whole video idea I came up with because of Voodoo's most recent statement of Storm having blood of Agamotto and that she is a descendant of Ashake. I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name right. Forgive me if I'm not. This made me think, what is Storm's potential? What does it mean to be related to these individuals? So I started digging. It ended up taking me to Marvel Tarot. And I want to preface this. If you want to read this book, you need to want to read this book. It's completely different from other comics you've read before. But it's hella important when it comes to the current lineup of every Marvel character currently. Before I delve into Marvel Tarot, I want to show you why that is such a thing. Defenders and Defenders Beyond. Tarot, symbolism, ideology, and metaphor is what's driving the current cosmology of everything. The first spell, all that yada yada stuff. All of this is being represented through individuals who, again, represent said metaphors. Once you know that we're going into these esoteric, beyond eternity, into the mystery comics, it always has to do with tarot, which is why this series is so important. How does this all pertain to Storm? Well, let me get to yapping. In this book, it all starts with Doctor Strange, who is the representation of the Magician card. After breaking down his role as an individual and the Sorcerer Supreme, we get all the previous and current listings of Sorcerer Supremes that's ever existed on Earth. And if we look around here, Aisha is shown. This is important because it's noted that she is a possible ancestor to Ashake and Ororo. That's when we get to this comic, and if you see the card here, look who is on that bad boy. The High Priestess. Later on, you'll find out that it's showing us that Storm's magical potential is on the level of that of Wanda, the Scarlet Witch, and Agatha. Let's go back to this page, specifically to read this note here. It was a bit of a surprise. While searching for the location of the Sword of Bone in ancient Egyptian texts, I came across the writings of a sorceress named Ashake. Remarkably, she had traced the bloodline of her ancestors all the way back to ancient Atlantis, where she found a sorceress named Aisha. Very same noted here. Not only was Aisha the first priestess possibly ever on Earth, she was also that era's Sorcerer Supreme, and even more remarkably, Ashake was able to trace her bloodline into the future to her modern descendant, Ororo Monroe. Ororo has great mystical potential, but she has yet to tap into it, mostly because she's never needed to, but despite that, she's still seeking her archetype, and one of 3 times, it is Ororo Monroe. What does he mean by 1 of 3 times? Every time he pulled the High Priestess card, it's either Wanda, Agatha, or Storm. This is showing the relativity to their magical potential. You know what series that came out quite recently that helps support this? Resurrection of Magneto, because it goes into the whole metaphorical aspect of it all. In Storm's attempt to find Magneto and her suffering through some tribulations, that very ancestor I was talking about, Ashake, arrives to help. He's here to teach Storm about symbolism, to teach Storm about the metaphor, and how that governs all across cosmology. And she tells us this through Magneto's helmets. 5. She had 5 helmets. Well, 5 is an important number in magic. And that ends up telling us where Magneto leaded to. Going back to Defenders and the first spell. 5 is an important number to magic, because that is the formulation of the very first spell ever casted. Of this, take note of the sword. Ashake then continues to tell Storm that you were placed here for a purpose, a higher power, noting it could be eternity, which leads into Storm's current series and why eternity chose her as a host. She's an avatar of life, and tying into that is also a representation of the saber. It goes even deeper, literally, when we fall into overspace where the dominions lie. Literally raw metaphor. These are entities that consume all forms of information, even narrative. You see every aspect of that when they scan not only Magneto here, but soon Ororo. He tried to fight back and noted that the only chance she has to actually hurt these things if her symbolism is strong enough. And it was able to do a little tickle, which surprised the Dominion. This is when, as in her own words, each of her metaphorical layers are splintered. showing exactly who and what she represents as a character. Storm has a cosmic purpose as important and potent as those like Wanda and the Phoenix Force. Speaking of the Phoenix Force, the secret fire is an aspect of the first spell. Not an aspect, but it's a conduit to help fuel it, and Strange was the representation of this during the Defenders run. In Rise of Powers of X, Phoenix does a specific thing to the Enigma that piqued my interest. She didn't just murk off the Enigma, no, she scattered his essence across all of time and space to ward off potential threats that come from the outside. Meaning that there are probably going to be threats that are coming from beyond, so we're going to need a new Defenders team. As both series represent, those team members correspond to the first spell. Strange tells Adam Brashear it's not an aspect of specific members getting picked out, no, it's their roles. The Defenders are not a team. If you don't believe me, especially with the aspect of her magical potential rivaling Wanda's, that's why they dropped this comic too. They talk about Storm's ancestry, the potency of their ancestry magic. The fact that it's so ambiguous yet so potent. The fact that it's literally being shown to be an equivalent in this specific scenario to Wanda's magic. Together, they met the criteria in order to actually successfully succeed this spell. I don't know why successfully succeed, that didn't make sense. But you get what I'm saying. And even then, that surprised Scarlet Witch. She doesn't know who Storm's ancestry are, so she was like, hey, let's talk about it. Storm has the potential to unironically be one of the strongest heroes in existence. Right, like I said, they've been literally trying to showcase that her importance is right up there with the Scarlet Witch, the Phoenix, and other cosmic entities of that power level. Slowly but surely, she's going to get to that level. She's gonna fit that High Priestess spot, which correlates to both Agatha and Wanda. And this series is the gateway to it. If you're not reading Storm, do it, because you're missing out on potential greatness.